which is the subject of this session, that because India in its history, in its tradition, has always been open to the world. Open to the world means people came here, we went out there were interactions, there were hybrids, there were outcomes which came out of it. The footprints of India in the world are not new, and nor are the influences of the world on India. It's been a really, I would say, an unusually interactive history between India and the world, and after obviously a somewhat difficult period in our history, today we are trying to reclaim that, to try to get back to a very positive, productive relationship with the world. So I will just share with you what I did in the last 2 weeks, just to tell you, give you a sense of what is the engagement with the world we have today. Roughly about, that's on the 10th of this month, I accompanied the Prime Minister as he went out to Paris to co-chair the AI Action Summit. He and President Macron were the conveners of this meeting, which was probably, today one of the most important AI policy platforms in the world. Of course, from there, Prime Minister went to Washington for his first meeting with President Trump in President Trump's second term. I thereafter went back to Europe to a very important conference, annual conference there called the Munich Security Conference, which was really discussing the key issues, not just of security, of larger directions which the world was going. Then I went on to Oman to meet foreign ministers and policymakers of the Indian Ocean region. A very large number of my colleagues were there. I came back to India briefly, and then I went to South Africa for the G20 meeting, where the focus really was again on how can the global leadership help the global south. Now I mention this to you because if you look at the range of these interactions, whether it's G20, whether it's the US, whether it's a technology summit, whether it's an Indian Ocean gathering, this really tells you today what is the breadth and intensity and importance of India's engagement with the world. So we are today, after all, the 5th largest economy. We will be higher up the ladder soon. But what that does mean is that the world has expectations of us. And those expectations have to be delivered by all of you, especially those sitting in the second half of the lid, the upper part of the room. The world has more expectations of us, but we also have greater responsibilities for the world. There cannot be situations or crises where we take a very self-centered approach. So it could be the COVID pandemic, it could be issues of conflict in different parts of the world, it could be disruptions to maritime shipping, it could be the demand in the world for talent. Now, there are increasingly going to be less and less issues on which we sit out. We need, therefore, to prepare ourselves as a country. I tell young people that please don't think foreign policy is something which these people and people like me do. We do. Foreign policy matters to you. It comes to your homes. Every choice which you make, whether the COVID, after all, taught us that lesson. When you, every day in your life, in some form or the other, Director IIT Professor Patra mentioned being able to travel securely. That foreign policy makes a difference. If today, the price of food or the price of petrol is reasonable, foreign policy has made a difference. If your borders are secure, or if, your products, the quality of products, the choices you have are more, That too is an outcome of foreign policy. So do get ready, do prepare yourself for a world of greater globalization, a world of greater technology. After all, you are in the IIT. And for a world where you will hold your own, and that you will do by knowing who you are, by honoring and respecting your traditions, by developing your own collective persona. So these were some of the thoughts. I am very pleased today that I have a number of ambassadors who are joining me on this trip. I thought it would be nice for them to see parts of India outside Delhi. They do see it, but not all of them naturally and regularly come to Kashi. So, and not all of them would necessarily go to university. So I think their presence here is also, to me, added value for this event. If there are things you wish to ask them, please feel free. I'm sure that they will be happy to share their knowledge and experience as well. So perhaps I could end on this note and we could have the question and answer session. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Jaishankar. Perhaps in you it's not an exaggeration if I say we have the combination of a bureaucrat as well as a minister, and that's well reflected with the elan and panache with which you deal the international interviews, and not to say there are many fans following for such kind of replies that we have had. Now, as the minister has laid ground for the interaction, we have collated the questions from our students. So I will be requesting those who have the mic, as and when I say the name, please stand in your place and the mic will be reaching you. Manav Mehta from the 4th year electrical engineering. I request the mic bearers to be spread in the hall so that we don't waste time in just moving the mic. Yes, Manav Mehta.
Respected MA, so the idea of Vishwa Bandhu is deeply rooted in our culture, but how do we promote this idea globally? Like, is it through media and cinematography, or are there any other ways?
I think you have to do all of it. You have to promote it through media, through diplomacy. But most of all, you have to act like a Vishwa Bandhu. Vishwa Bandhu meaning friend of the world, friend or partner to the world. And you know, when I was giving you my catalogue of activities for the last few days, yesterday night I addressed a conference of medical, you can say tourism, or medical industry, of people who come to India for heal in India, or people who are benefited by Indian medical or pharmaceutical or institutional support. I was myself, struck by how active we have been across the world in terms of, support in the health sector. When I look at disaster situations, rescuing people, or going for earthquakes or that kind of disasters, or I look at contributions we make, or sometimes even just standing up for other people. We had the president of the AU speak up at the G20. Now, the fact was, Africa had been continuously promised a seat in G20, but it didn't really get done till the G20 came to India because nobody was willing to make a fight of it. So I think, so everybody will say we are a friend of the world. You have to act like a friend of the world. And the world has to believe you're a friend based on what you do. So I regard it in a way as a direction, as an outlook, but it's also a goal. You have to keep challenging yourself that, are there things I can do for the world which will make it a better place.
Thank you.
Thank you. So it's not just technology, but even our foreign policies are governed by the tradition, because we say manasyekam, vachasyekam, karmanyekam mahatmanah. So it's not mere lip service, but the unity in thought, word and action, that what makes an impact. Ms. Muskan Priyakant Rawat, she hails from the 5th year industrial chemistry.
Respected MEA, my question is, what opportunities are being created for the youth so that they can learn about the cultures and ideas, helping them to develop a sense of brotherhood for the future?
Well, the Kashi Tamil Sangamam itself is an example. I think today there's much greater awareness among young people about our traditions. And I've lived a very large part of my life abroad. And I've seen many societies which have not been able to pass that down to the younger generation. That the younger people are disconnected from their roots in many ways. It's not something I would like to see in my own country. But here's the interesting bit. I think part of the reason we've been able to do it is actually because we are passing traditions on through technology. That many of you would know things, do things, experience things because you have access to information and you have the ability to actually act on it in a way in which somebody 20 years older than you did not have. So there's also, I think it's important for the leadership to inculcate that sense, not just of awareness, also of pride. That, our way of doing things. I'm not saying to the exclusion of others, but at least let us say our way of medicine, our way of healing, our way of wellness, our way of lifestyle, our way of resolving disputes. I think it's important that we express that confidently if we are to make sure the younger people believe in it.
Thank you very much. Mr. Aryan Gupta, third year BTech Metallurgy. Wherever you are, please stand.
Hello sir. My question is that AI is the future we all know, and currently it lacks the emotional quotient. So as India offers an unparalleled wealth of data across languages, cultures and ethnicity and all socio and economic backgrounds, so what steps government should take to harness this diversity and help countries in the development of AI, uplifting the emotional quotient?
I would urge you to look or read what Prime Minister said at that AI summit in Paris. Because one of the basic points he made is how to deal with the cultural bias in AI, which is partly what you are talking about. In that sense, India would be a very crucial player. Not just because of our technology capability, but also because of our scale. That scale and diversity. That if you had the scale, but it was a more uniform scale, I think its value to AI would be less. What we bring to AI is one, the talent, two, the scale, and three, the diversity. And I think those three combined together would actually deal with this. If, by the way, any of you has anything to ask any of the ambassadors, please feel free on your behalf.
Yes, so the questions can be even addressed to the various ambassadors who are amidst us. So please make use of that opportunity as well. Mr. Raja Bhavesh.
Respected sir, what lessons can the world learn from India in developing strong international relationships?
I don't think it's a matter of world learning lessons. I think we are an old civilization society. There are habits and attitudes and practices that we bring to bear, and many others do as well. I would rephrase what you are saying, which is, I think we need to contribute more confidently, more strongly. And if we do that, the value of that contribution would be recognized. But equally, I think we need to be sensitive and aware of the contribution of others. That It's just as we feel that sometimes not enough justice is done to our viewpoint. Remember, there would be others who would be having a similar feeling as well. So a lot of what we are trying to do is not just change, one part of it is to change the power balance in the world. I think the more difficult is to change attitudes so that it's a much more consultative and you can say a democratic world, much more collaborative world, in which obviously we would like to do our fair share and more.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Ritik Mittal, Mr. Ritik Mittal, who comes from the mining engineering, 4th year.
Hello, sir. My question is, as we embrace Vishwa Bandhu, how can we ensure global engagement? And what key parameters should guide this? And which topic should India prioritize?
First of all, the world is a very integrated place. It's not like you do politics, economics, energy, technology separately. It comes often seamlessly and as a package. So it's very hard to necessarily pick. I mean, obviously there are some countries have greater priorities. But again, think back today. If we are, the fifth and, fourth, third largest economy in the world, I put it to you the other way around. Which part would you not engage the world? Which domain is it which is not globalized anymore, where you can feel that I can handle it only at home? I would suggest to you none. That every part today of what we do, every dimension, every facet of our activities somewhere has some kind of global external dimension. Look again, the key part, the whole concept of Vishwa Bandhu. It is not, it's not rocket science. The whole idea is how can a country maximize its strengths and minimize its problems. It doesn't happen by itself. It just doesn't also happen only by being nice. It will happen if you are prepared to do more. If people remember you as standing up at that moment of a problem or a crisis. Or if you say, okay, I'm sort of trying to find a way out of a difficult situation. So Vishwa Bandhu is not a passive concept. It requires actually to be credible. You can have no enemies and be irrelevant. If you are relevant, there will be, of course there will be some problems accompanying it. But how do you optimize it? How do you make your presence felt, but in the best possible way, with the least possible problems? I mean, that is really what a common sense, which happens to be a traditional way of looking at the world.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Sanjana Garai. She comes from the Mathematics and Computing, 3rd year.
A very good afternoon, sir. It's an honor to be with this opportunity. My question is, strategic partnerships are often perceived as alignments rather than friendships. How can India, while upholding Vishwa Bandhu, navigate geopolitical sensitivities in technology and promote cooperation without compromising strategic interests, given global superpowers' competitive stance?
You see, in our case, there are two sides to it. One is our history and one is our size. I think as a country which for many years was ruled by a foreign power, there's a great deal of sensitivity about independence. That we don't want to get into a situation where you are again ever tied to another foreign power. You don't want them to get too much influence or too much of a say on our decision making and choices. So this very strong streak of independence, I think, is a consistent streak. I don't think, it's somewhere in our people, it's in our public discourse. It's not a political position of a particular government or a party. I think everybody shares it in a way. The second is while we want to be independent, we also in different ways want to get our work done. But remember, we are also a big country, and big countries typically have so many interests that they cannot necessarily be tied down to some other country on all issues. So if you have this large number of countries in the world, with every country there will be touch points. There will be things you agree with, but there will be things you agree with less. So by its nature of our size and the nature of our mindset, we will always keep it as flexible, as easy, as optional as possible. I mean, that's to me a logical outlook from both our history and our scape. And interestingly, this is apparently going to be the future of the world as well. In the last few months, I think if you look at the global conversation, it has become very much a conversation of national interest. It has become, I am in it for my country. Now, I think in many ways, what for us had been, for our own reasons, a certain way of thinking, I think with many other countries in the world who did not follow that way of thinking, I think they seem to be poised for a change as well.
Thank you very much, sir. Since I have the privilege of standing between you and the minister, I'll break the ice, and I have some question for the ambassadors who are sitting here. Because you have shared concept of decolonization, because we have several ambassadors, high commissioners from different countries in Africa, and we morning discussed about the spirit of decolonization, which is we are currently facing. Perhaps in your individual countries you have already faced it, and it's going on. I, as an Indian, now an informed Indian, would be requesting you specifically about your experience of the decolonization waves that you have experienced or you have led in your country. I would request our ambassadors from Rwanda or High Commission from Somalia or Jamaica. First Jamaica, and then we'll come to Rwanda.
Thank you for raising that all-important concept raised earlier. I would say that the process of decolonization hasn't quite taken root. I think that more ought to be done. When you think about what it would entail, the colonial legacy, if you will, is deep-rooted and subversive. It's ubiquitous. And to get that out of the system requires a lot more than is presently done. Because if you take the case of Africa and Jamaica and the West Indies, you're looking at over 400 years of a extractive, exploitative process. Now, how do you undo that? It is not a simple question of putting together a series of remedial actions. It takes a lot more. What I do believe is being done is that we're seeing greater collaboration between these countries. We're seeing a push towards the Commonwealth to redefine itself and to make itself more relevant. And I see India playing a major role in that construct. Certainly COVID taught us some measure of interdependency, and we saw how India rose to that challenge in superlative fashion. And we, again, I believe on behalf of all of us, would like to express heartfelt gratitude for the support we received from India during that very trying period. But I think that we could concert among ourselves to truly fashion a way forward. When you talk about slavery, there's a question of reparations. And that's a very touchy subject which nobody wants to talk about. But it's still very real. What do reparations look like? Is it just simply a repayment? I don't think so. So I would be interested to hear what the Honourable Minister's perspective is on that.
Can I make one quick comment before, of course, we toss the ball back to the ambassadors? You know, rather than frame it necessarily as decolonization, today we have a concept which has struck a chord in India. It's in Hindi, it's Atmanirbharta, which loosely translates into a kind of a self-reliance. But a self-reliance not so much like you make everything in your own country for yourself, but more like a self-confidence. You're proud of what you have. You want to, bring forth your traditions and your heritage. So there is a kind of be confident of who you are and what you can do. I mean, that would be the kind of sentiment which has grown in the last 10 years. And secondly, picking up on what you said, High Commissioner, within the world itself, the whole idea of global South, and often it's a term which I find countries who are not part of global South are very uncomfortable. I actually read a very learned column in a newspaper saying global South is an oxymoron, because if it is South, how can it be global? But the reality is, global South is a very interesting term, because when you are in it, you know you are in it, and if you don't understand it, that means you're not in it. So I leave those thoughts with you. Really, how do we develop that sentiment? How do we, get that rebalancing done in the world? Because I think that, in a way, is part of the debate today.
Just for my younger friends' benefit, the question that was raised was from the High Commissioner of Jamaica, West Indies, and who has a connection to India very deeply rooted through familial connections as well, and as rightly contextualized by the Minister. If I request the mic to be passed on to our ambassador from Rwanda. Eritrea.
It is Eritrea. The problem with Eritrea is as what the minister said now. We were under a black country, colonized for 30 years. But if you go back to the United Nations or the African Union, name it all this, international, what do you call it, nobody care about you. So what do? You have to do on your self-reliance policy. We, after 30 years of war, we are a very small country, but we won the war on self-reliance. No country was on our side. No single country was on our side. We kicked them out, we got our country. So the self-reliance makes you more stronger, not bigger. You cannot beg. You cannot be decolonized again by your masters. So the self-reliance policy is still going in my country, even now after the independence. We never bow to anyone, but we need friends like India, who are on our side. They can see how we are going, how we are progressing on self-reliance. So I cannot boast that self-reliance, I am doing this and that. No, you need friends. You need on your side someone to give you a push. So we appreciate the Indian standing in our country. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I request the mic to be given to the same front. Person raising hand, after him, Yusuf.
Thank you. Good afternoon. I'm Cisco Fernandez from Timor-Leste, the newly embassy opened in New Delhi. I just arrived in India 3 months ago. I think back to the topic, Timor-Leste is the last country that got referendum in 1999. You know, the resolution 1960, after 1990, we entered to the first millennium, then we got independence. Now we come to the decolonization. I think for us, no enemy, friend for all. No permanent alliance, but friend for all. So we're seeking friends. Reconciliation is very important. After we become independent, then we have a group called CPP, Portuguese-speaking official country. We include Portugal, Brazil, all the continent. We are come together. So I think, when you say self-reliance, that's important. It's for your own development. But the international cooperation, that's the most important.
Thank you very much. This Friends for All is what is resonating with this Vishwa Bandhu thing that we are rightly discussing. I request the mic to be brought to the front.
Thank you for providing this opportunity. Sir, just I want to know from you that this entire mission of Viksit Bharat, and in that mission, how this self-reliance and diplomacy issue is going to contribute in one way or another way. Self-reliance, you rightly said that is another way of telling decolonizing process. But the country like India, which has a strong colonial presence itself today, so we need to also use this term decolonization in one way or another way.
Viksit Bharat, for my colleagues, is a developed India goal that we have set forward for ourselves by 2047. So let's connect all the dots which have been raised in the room so far. Okay, technology, self-reliance, decolonization, independence. Actually, they all come together for Viksit Bharat. And I give you a prime example of that. If we progress the way every other country, every other major economy has done before us, we will always lag behind. Because you are following the same model, and in that model you cannot overtake anybody ahead of you. Okay. So if you have to go faster and go through quantum jumps and really leapfrog in a very massive way, the answer is technology. And it looks very theoretical till we actually start reflecting on our everyday life. And I want all of you to think about what has happened to around you even in the last 5 years. We are today a little bit below $4 trillion as an economy. Okay? At 1.5, let us say, billion people, that would put us at, you do the maths, but below $3,000 per capita income. Now, if you had gone around to any economics class anywhere in the world and told them at $3,000 you can make a social welfare state, they would laugh at you. And yet, in that very conference yesterday which I attended, I was told that 730 million of this Ayushman Bharat health insurance cards have issued in this country. 730 million. I'm part of a cabinet which sanctioned nutrition support every month for 815 million people. Just look at the scales of this and ask ourselves, how were we able to do it? Why is it we today don't even think about doing things by the hundreds of millions? I mean, look even at COVID. If everybody had their 2 doses and most of the country was, we did something like 2.3, 2.4 billion doses. And almost everybody in some form was told, your dose 1 is available in this period at this place and you're now eligible for your dose 2. Now, it has shown you what happens when you take that technology, but you have the confidence, you have the creativity, you have a different way and a different ambition of applying it. And then you can actually manage to do something on a scale, in a manner in which probably even the people who thought of it, the technology or the practice in the first place, didn't know. We speak today of digital public infrastructure. The digital existed before us. The infrastructure existed before us. We were just the guys who applied it on a scale which nobody else had ever done before. So if we want to do that kind of creative things, and I think the AI world is ripe for it. I would argue that if there is any country which can get it right, can actually harness the power of AI, it is India, because it will give us a pathway to, to grow at a speed and in a manner in which the pathways, the orthodox pathways, will never give us. And to do that, you need confidence. So the missing piece, the X factor in all of this, we come back to, is who are we? Who are we? If we think of ourselves, what are we as a people? Take pride in it, draw inner strength from it. I believe that there is a lot that can come out of this.
On that note, due to want of time, we'll take one more question from Mr.
Thank you very much, Excellency Minister. This is Peter Mujiri, High Commissioner for Kenya. I wanted to say we need to agree more in terms of India became independent in 2047. There are very many other countries that became independent thereafter. I think with all due respect, the issue of being held back by the colonizer is more of a myth and something which nations have to completely get out of. It's like a shell that you need to break out and realize you've got a nation, you've got a people, you've got to build the right strategy, and you've got to build momentum and realize there are several key competencies that are inbuilt in the country and that are available, that you then creating linkages globally and having the right partners as well, you can propel yourself. As an economist at a banker, I was here in India in 90s, 2000, and I can tell you what I see now is the whole factor around the leadership and people who know where they really must get to. And some of the capabilities which are available for me as a High Commissioner is an issue of look at them, what is possible to create a collaborative approach and get them, you also become disruptive at the local level. Let me say that from the African setting, it's not a resource issue. Perhaps we need to look more in-house, because when we say India and technology as well, you find that, for instance, Kenya, we invented the mobile money. The mobile money transfer is an invention, Kenya. The tech side in Kenya, despite we are an African country, we have a lot of linkages and we are not lagging behind. I'm trying to say, Mr. Minister and Honorable Excellencies, is no longer a factor of we were colonized. And as a people, the republic I represent, where we have over 300,000 nations, we find that there are particular sectors where we are doing extremely well, they are part of at the local level as a nation. We are realizing that there is no reason why we need to be where we are. So there are issues and questions that are not necessarily at the diplomatic level, but they need to be confronted, and the nation wakes up to a new strategic reality of where the people must get a push to. Because when I look at this nation, for me, the lessons learned, I see a certain factor there, which is key. It is not necessarily the colonialist anymore. Thank you.
Thank you very much, His Excellency, for rejuvenating the spirit and not to harp on the colonizer's point of view. Again, due to want of time, I would put a sorry face, maybe a word. I'll request the mic to be given this side.
Thank you very much. I represent the female side, so I thought I would say something. I will try not to take long. I would like to thank the Honorable Minister for this invitation. that has brought myself in the environment of the university for which I worked in so many, many years. Honorable Minister, I would like to thank you and the government of Honorable Modi once again for walking the talk and facilitating AU joining the G20. Africa will not get tired of thanking you for what you have done. This is an opportunity that I don't want to miss. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
As I end, I want to support my brother because from Kenya, because I had it on my notes, that I have said this before, I have written it wherever I have a chance, that for how long are we going to blame our colonizers for our backwardness? Africa, for how long? It is 60 years plus 70 years since the colonizer left. Yes, he took our resources, but did he take our brains? Why don't we take the destiny of our country, as my brother said, and vote ourselves? That is why we associate ourselves. And as the Dean said, we need friends. That's why Uganda and many African countries, we are associating ourselves with India, because India is a friend. India understands us. India was where we are not too long ago. So we believe we are on the right path. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency. Just to wind up, we will take one question from our student, Ravi Kumar. Ravi Kumar. Yeah, just speak. You can.
So my question is, how can India promote Ayurveda globally as an affordable alternative for incurable disease? And what role we can play in facilitating international collaboration and recognition?
What role can Ayurveda play?
It is something we are working on. There's no simple single answer. What happened during COVID is many people in many countries actually turned to Ayurveda because often they found in it a remedy or a preventive with which they were more comfortable at a time when they were very anxious and very insecure. So I feel that, pre-2020 to post-2020, there's a fair amount of change in the global attitudes towards Ayurveda. But there is a lot, but it's mixed up with a lot of other things because, people often are conditioned to take medicines in a certain way or to take even, anything you take for your well-being. So there are dosages and there are packaging, and so in many ways it's a question of also Ayurveda solutions being presented to them in a manner in which they are comfortable. There is a larger issue about medicines from India. We are trying to popularize Indian pharmacopoeia. We have agreements with a number of countries to accept that. There's also the reality of the world. The reality of the world is there are very deeply entrenched pharma interests which have a very strong narrative and don't make it easier for people to apply their own experiences and their own minds to it. So it's a long haul. We are at it. We've made some progress. The ground situation is better, but a lot of work to do.
The Honorable Vice Chancellor of DHU wants to add something.
I don't want to ask any question from the Minister. I just want to thank all the dignitaries who have visited here. And this time it was really very short. You couldn't spend a lot of time with the BHU. So I invite on behalf of IIT BHU and BHU, please do visit BHU with your own time, interact with our faculty members, students, and I really extend my heartfelt thanks all of you for your time. and questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir. You made my job easy to thank. With that, since you have expressed your desire to visit university, this may be not the last time. We extend this welcome once again. On that note, I thank everybody who has given the time here and have had active participation. I'm sure there are many more questions, but we'll have our minister visit us once again on a different theme where we can interact with him more. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you all of you. I request the students to be seated before and they leave the hall after the dignitaries leave.